Ba, 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 ba. Hey, who's in the chat right now? Today I'm going to try to test out a couple of different things with the live stream, and the thing I'm experimenting with today is the chat, and I'm going to see if it works with the live streaming software, which is something that I haven't had a whole lot of experience using before. So it seems like it's working. And the thing is, on the left side of the screen, which is that way, my right, is the chat window that is showing up. So, nice haircut. Software's working okay. And that's one thing I wanted to test. And it looks like the chat fade out animation is something that's kind of okay. Not sure how I like it though. So I have some questions about what are we doing today? Well, as the live stream title of today's video is, I'm just checking in with you guys. I didn't have a live stream last week, so I am trying to make up for it this week. I also have some things in the works that I am going to release on the website, as well as kind of announce on this channel that I'm working on. Something that is going to help a lot of you guys kind of ramp up your development skills, or I guess more specifically iOS development skills, because I'm getting some students asking me how to like go from step 1 to step 2 to step 3 of like improving your like software programming like habits. So I have an idea that I've been thinking about for a really long time, maybe like a month, and I'm gonna work on it for the next couple of days, and I'm gonna push it out to you guys. And it's gonna be something something fun for me at least, and it should be fun for you guys that are trying to get into program. It's kind of an exercise and a challenge exercise for you guys, and I'm thinking about something like every week I'm going to present you guys with some kind of difficult challenge. How that's going to work, how that's going to integrate with the channel and the website, and maybe something else. It's going to be interesting, and so hopefully I will have that up and ready in the next week. Yeah, so a couple of you guys are just hanging out. Any of you guys with any questions, I am definitely willing to hang out and answer for a couple of minutes today. Hello from Iraq. So it looks like it's kind of difficult to see the chat when it's disappearing. Yeah, the chat's kind of difficult to read if I can't scroll through it, which is a little annoying. So I see one question about the Instagram Firebase course that has whether or not it's going to be updated to Swift 4. Inside of the download source, there's a folder that has all of the Firebase 4 and Swift 4 updated projects in it. So I think 2 weeks ago I updated it to a new version of Xcode, and that wasn't the GM version, so it should compile, but there's a part of I guess some parts of the camera exercises, the lessons that start with the camera, some of those projects don't compile anymore. Or is compile the right word? Some of them, they don't run anymore. So I am going to fix those whenever I have the chance. And yeah. So I don't like the way that this chat is disappearing on me. So I want to see if I can bring up a different chat. Okay. So I feel like this one's a little better. I'll shut that one off. I'm also testing out a different room for shooting some of these videos. So you can tell the background has a different layout. Let's see, where is that live chat at? And I'm working on my laptop today, which makes it a little harder to navigate these windows. Okay, so let's see if I shrink this a little bit and bring it to here. I think I can do that. Okay, so that's much better. Okay, so that's a fail on the chat test. I thought it would make it more interesting, but it turns out it's even harder to control and answer some of these questions. So I'm gonna go back to doing the old style where I'm just here and we have our chat open. So again, I didn't really prepare anything for today's live stream, so we're just gonna hang out. If you wanna exit this stream, you're definitely free to do so. Chat window, Romania. All right. We have Germany. Nice haircut. Yeah. Definitely doing something a little different with the hair, I guess. One problem as you're getting older and older is you have less and less hair to customize your hairstyle. Oh, getting old. It's not fun. So I was teaching in Shanghai, I think last month, and man, all the kids that I was teaching was about 17, 18 years old, high school seniors, and moving on to their first couple of years of college. So man, I felt kind of old. They did pretty well though, compared to when I was in high school and what I was studying. I really wish I studied computer science earlier. Yeah, I was programming by myself when I was a senior, but I never studied computer science until I think I was 18. I didn't even know if it was a thing really. I didn't know that you can get a degree in it. So Brazil, nice. Upcoming VR game that I created. Currently I am not testing any apps, but maybe it'll become a segment for this channel, maybe. Vegas, Dorian, right? Hello. When I was younger, when I went to Vegas, like I think I was 16, I went with a couple of family members, my sister, my now brother-in-law, and we drove all the way down from Sacramento, which is about an 8-hour drive. And I didn't really appreciate back then that type of trip. When you're younger and when you're a kid, all you want to do is like play video games or watch TV and things like that. And then as you get older, I went to Vegas last year, and it was so much fun. Like getting away from the mundane everyday life, work, all that stress, and just going somewhere different and just spending a couple of days in Vegas is so relaxing. And yeah, as you get older, you learn to appreciate vacations more, which is good. But unfortunately, when you have kids and you take your kids on these vacations, you have that whole cycle again where you you have these ungrateful kids that are complaining about wanting to go home all the time. And that's how life works. Sam Fu, Peter Spitzer. Oh, Peter. Good to see you. What intermediate Swift book do I recommend? So every time someone asks me about books regarding Swift, I don't ever recommend any book. Like, I'm a pretty big non-book person. Advocating for books, I feel like books are so outdated in terms of usability. Like, the user experience, if you're talking about books, is so bad compared to Google searching for things. But on the flip side, having a book while you're traveling on a trip, that's better than nothing, right? Because you don't have internet when you're on a plane. So if you're on a plane and if you wanted to study Swift, what would I recommend? I personally have never purchased a Swift book before, and I guess the Ray Wenderlich books are okay. When I was teaching boot camp, a lot of these students highly recommended the Ray Wenderlich series. I personally have not read those books, so I can't say if they're good or not. But I was on the Ray Wenderlich team, so I can tell you that all of the authors and the material in there is top notch. Am I still working as a contractor? Yes, I am. Thank you for the roses, Umar. Niga Higa Gaming, that's messed up. Watching your Firebase 3 tutorial series recently, incredible. You are a real programmer with talent. Well, thank you, Chang Liu Chang. Yeah, so that Firebase series is, I think it's obviously the best thing I've put out so far. And every lesson, just, we keep knocking out new features, new screens, talking about new, I guess, different ways of handling programmatic elements in your code. And the way that app is built out is really to kind of reflect what you'll see in the real world in a software company. So you're not going to see like a whole lot of interface builder, for example, in a real company. So we go through a lot of the good habits that you should adopt when you are thinking about how to solve like a specific set of problems. And so the Firebase, the Instagram app has a lot of these like patterns that you see often, and we go through a lot of good ways to tackle those challenges, which is something I love doing. Like I love teaching people how to go from like the basics, like when you're raw iOS developer, and you become better when you see people a little bit more experienced code out the same challenges that you're trying to tackle. That is what I find to be really helpful, especially when I was going through my first couple of years as a developer, just learning from people that were more experienced. It's the way to go. Tiago Henrique, thanks a lot for a huge help. So I'm going to release another course on my website about core data and some maps APIs. So hope you guys stay tuned for that. When I have that all ready, I'll put it up on the website, and then whoever wants to get in early on it can pay for the course. I remember last time when I announced the Instagram course, I think a lot of people purchased early when not even the first episode was out yet. So that was good. I really thank everyone for like the support. Hello from Serbia. Sorry, right. Have a question. Can someone get a database admin job without degree but has certificates? So if you're going to work as a database administrator, then you either have to have a degree or a couple of years of experience. And just like any other software job, experience is probably the key to how you're going to land anything, really. What keyboard do I use? I use the Apple full-size keyboard, so hopefully I can get it out for you. So this is the Apple keyboard. And so the reason why the Apple keyboard is really useful is because it comes with these left, right, up and down keys, as well as the full-size number pad. And as you're coding, you'll often have to type out numbers, and I just like having access to that. It's also, I feel like it's more ergonomic for me. It makes my hands a little bit more comfortable as I'm like coding out for 8 hours a day. This is easier for me. The wireless one is a little smaller. I feel like I'm doing this a lot, whereas this one it's bigger. And while we're on the subject, I'm using this really old mouse. It's a Logitech MX500. I've had this mouse for I think at least 10 years, and before that I actually had the same version, I think an MX400 or something, and they're really good. This one is kind of dying out on me. Sometimes the mouse jumps for absolutely no reason. So that's what I have to deal with as a developer. Luckily, these parts are all pretty cheap. Mice, they're a really good investment, I think, because they last for so long. And they perform like perfectly. Pretty much, the Logitech mouses perform really well. Right, so this question again. Yeah, I'm in the process of updating all those Firebase or the Instagram one to Swift 4. The chat one, I probably will not be updating to Swift 4 because the last time I updated from Swift 2 to Swift 3 took me quite a long time. I guess maybe I'll do it. Yeah. Oh, having allergies here. For some reason, the room, I don't know why, but my bedroom, so this is my bedroom. You see my bed frame over there. I don't really know why, but I have allergies in this room, and I don't have as severe of allergies in the living room. What are the must skills to get a junior iOS developer? It really depends on the company. Like I was telling another student that if you're able to build out that Instagram course that we have on the website, and this is not me trying to promote it, well, maybe it is, but if you can build out that entire app without looking at any of those lessons again, like that should get you a job right there. It comes with so many different moving parts that once you're able to get them all working together, there's really no reason for a company not to hire you. So that's my thought on it. Obviously, every company is different. The thing that's kind of a gate is when you're trying to pass that interview whiteboarding section of the interview. It's difficult if you cannot figure out those algorithm challenges. So whiteboarding exercises when like the senior engineer will come to you and give you a pretty difficult programming exercise, and you have to be able to solve it. If you're not going to be able to do it, then most likely they're not going to hire you. So that's kind of how it works. Kind of wish it was different, but not much we can do about that. Okay. Can you test the new Anchor system with iOS 11? So everything works just the same. The only thing you have to worry about is the iPhone 10 with the top and bottom extra space, the notches. It should be okay. I made that video about how you can use the safe area layout guides. And once you adopt that, all your apps just work. From the UK, that you were going to do all of those videos on iOS and Kotlin. Eventually. Oh yeah, these new constraint equal to system spacing. Yeah, I haven't really investigated too much on these new method calls, but they do exist, and I guess they're used for something else now. I can't tell you what it is yet, but we'll see as we get new. Oh god. Once we I guess the most important thing right now is to get our hands on the iPhone 10, and it's going to feel a lot different when we use it like in our hands, right? So once we have that, we'll figure out the anchoring system. Everything's new. I found that when I was building out apps for that iPhone 10 simulator, because of the new layout, everything just felt so different that I was having fun again. I know you guys heard me complain a little bit about how iOS was becoming very boring and stale. So that new simulator size and some of the new areas that you can play with kind of rekindled my interest in iOS development again. Oh, so here's a good question. Here's a good question. I have a question that I wanted to ask a long time ago. If you build your UI in code, how can a member see a preview of the UI? So how many of you guys have an answer to this question? So this is a question that I guess people ask when they don't have too much experience in the software world. So I guess there's a couple of answers to this question. The preview of your UI is obviously the app on your phone. And so you can use the application on the App Store and you can see exactly what it's doing. If you are a software engineer, you can look at some of the screens and you just have to follow where the screens are, or you can easily tell by looking at the code base what view controller corresponds to what screen you're looking at. And you have to be able to figure out where the code is coming from. That's it. If you are a software developer and you can't figure out where the code is that generates the view, then you probably need a couple of different exercises in doing that, because like at a real software company, when you're working in a really large code base, there's like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of lines of code. So you have to be able to navigate through this entire repository. If you are expecting things to be visual for you, then you're going to be definitely surprised, and not in a good way, when you enter a software organization. Like, you just have to stare at code for 8 hours a day, and that's pretty much the standard, and it's going to be the same everywhere. Looks sleepy, wear glasses. I've been sneezing a lot today, so I think my eyes are like super puffy. Anyways, what do you think about beginning an iOS developer working for free to build their resume experience? Yay or nay? I am pro for working for free, as long as that person isn't demanding too much from you. Some people are really unreasonable with their specifications and requirements from someone that's just doing it for free. So I used to do code fights with your fans. I'm not a good coder when it comes to doing live coding. So most of the time when I look at these code fights algorithms and these challenges, I think that they're really difficult. So I wouldn't be able to solve most of them. And you know, I don't claim to be a high level. I never claim to be able to solve these algorithms really quickly. They're all really, really hard. So, and most of the time you don't need to solve these algorithms to get a job. You can go make a tournament. That would be a lot of fun. Most all employers require testing experience. Do you have a project in GitHub that is a good example of XC testing, or can you recommend a source? So I haven't seen a whole lot of good Xcode testing in my past experience working with iOS. I've done a lot of Java testing, but Java is really easy to test because there's so many tools. When it comes to iOS, it's more difficult because it's so UI heavy. Yeah. How do you go to church? It's worth trying. So Escrim says when you'll start a project based Kotlin on Android. So we have that Facebook one. I just haven't really recorded anything yet. How do you start your own business? Well, go out and start doing something with your idea. Oh yeah, first step, have an idea. What am I doing outside of YouTube? Well, I'm pretty much doing 100% YouTube and the website, and things are going good. I don't really need to do any other type of work for now because of the savings that I've managed to accrue, is that the right word, over the last couple of years. I think I'm in a good position not to worry about my financial my finances right now. Is not a big deal for me. What do you think the salary of iOS junior position? I don't know, $80,000 in the West Coast, in the Bay Area, in the Silicon Valley, probably 90,000. Sounds like a reasonable starting salary. Is the Instagram course still a good, even though iOS 11 is here? Yeah, it totally is. Some of the code does not run though, so I'm going to update it and I'll post the new code in those video lessons. And the code is 99% the same, so you don't have to worry about iOS 11 being, or the code in that course being obsolete, because the code is still virtually the same. And yeah, still useful to learn and sure, but the Swift version is different now, so it may not compile as is. Yeah, Swift version is a little different, and inside of the downloads I'm going to include the Xcode 9 iOS 11 compatible code, so make sure to look out for that. How long does it take to learn Swift? If you already know Objective-C, not very long. I thought you were going to continue with Kotlin and build the Android version of your iOS apps. Well, you can wait for that, whenever that happens. Yeah. That's one thing I'll say about this is that if you've never done YouTube recording videos before, for me personally, I never knew how long they took to shoot, how long they took to prepare, scripting, editing, making sure you have everything correct, and then finally having somewhere to upload the source code, have your thumbnails ready, descriptions, all this stuff. Oh man, just getting one video out. It takes so long. When I land a job, if I only learn and do coding free time, should I just focus on building my own app? I guess I kind of got this question a couple of days ago. It seems like you don't have, or you're lacking direction right now. If you're lacking direction, no one's gonna want to hire you. That's how the world works. Most people kind of lack direction. Like, direction and execution is a big part of not just programming, but kind of knowing where you want to go. That's a huge thing. If you have to ask someone else where you want to be in like the next year, they won't be able to help you out. So figure out yourself where you want to be in a year, and then you kind of have to work backwards from that point to make sure you can get there in that time. Yep, Xcode 9 does compile with Swift 3. Swift 4 code is very, very similar, so don't worry too much about updating Swift 4. It should work. For the most part, sometimes you do have to wait for the pods that you're integrating with Cocoapods to update to Swift 4, but that should happen in like the next month or even the next couple of weeks. Yeah. So this is a interesting question. Should I take a low salary for my entry iOS developer job? That's a hard question to answer. If it was me, I might do it. I think I actually did do that. So my first job, I was being paid, I think I was in the mid 60,000s as a programmer, my first programming job. And that was definitely being underpaid. And I didn't really care at the time. Being underpaid was okay for me. So I knew that after a year of that job, I would be able to just, jump into, I guess, the 90s or the 100,000 range. And so I was definitely really sure about that happening. So just being underpaid for a year didn't really matter much to me. And you have to be, I guess, confident in your own research, especially where you're living. So yeah, every time I'm like trying to decide between doing this one thing or another, I do my research, and most of the time the research it pans out. Like, everything that's being said on the internet is most of the time true. I guess in regards to programming, software development, jobs, salary is really easy to find out. You just look on Google and you can see exactly what salaries are. So I was kind of surprised when people came to that video about how much money you make or how much money I made as an iOS developer, and my salary history. It's all public. All this information is public. It's all online. You just Google for it. It just takes someone to actually say that they made that much money. Then the information becomes more interesting and relevant because you can see a face behind it. And salary information is just public, pretty much. What do you think about using Cocoapods to make an app? Use whatever you have to use to make an app. And then when you can slowly wean yourself off pods, then you should start deleting the pods that you don't need. The thing about pods is that sometimes you do start to install too many, and what happens is a new version of Swift comes out, you have to wait for the pods to update to Swift 4, and then you kind of slow down your development for your sprints, your cycles, and it's really a pain in the ass. So if you can avoid using pods, I would do that as much as possible. When you create user in Firebase, does the user get automatically logged in? Yes. So these are the kind of questions that I don't like answering, because you have to give it a try yourself and then you figure it out. Like, having someone answer this question is not going to help you really. Yeah, it's like it gives you very little help, because you have to figure out how to confirm that yourself. If I was in a classroom, I would decline to answer this question. I would tell the student to go and see for yourself if the user is logged in automatically. Fawad, follow all your tutorials. You are really amazing. Thank you. I think I've seen your name on the Instagram course, so it's good to see you in the live stream. Yeah. Why do you prefer iOS over Android? I don't really have a preference for either. I think they're both equally interesting. It's just you get used to performing or developing in one platform after a while. You just get more comfortable with it, and that for me is iOS. I like Android development just as much. I just don't have the time to do it. Okay. Yes. Delegates GCD extensions. I don't really have any good resources. Google. That's pretty much where I learn all of this stuff. Weak self, unknown self, enclosure. So most of the time you have to add the weak self to prevent the retain cycles. And yeah, I don't have any good examples for the unknown self. But yeah, the weak self is something that you kind of have to do. But make sure to monitor what your app is doing in terms of the memory, if it's really being retained and if there really is a memory leak. So that's important. Do you enjoy web programming as well? If so, can you make a course about web backend development? So there is very little, I guess there aren't a lot of different things you can do as a programmer these days. So what I want to say, so web programming is a lot of fun. I think if I were to choose between iOS, Android, mobile, and web, I would probably pick web programming over all of them. Yeah, so React.js is a really fun language or fun framework to use, and I just like it a lot. And the amount of, I guess, time I can develop React apps way faster than iOS apps. So that's kind of why I like React and web. Like JavaScript is just super easy to work with. Swift, on the other hand, it's like super slow. I think it's because of Xcode and how you have to compile the app every time you make a change. It gets really old after a while. And the same, well, the Android Studio editor is really fast. You can quick reload, which is a lot faster. So Xcode is definitely showing its kind of showing its age. Like making those writing out Swift code and Xcode is something I find myself not liking more and more these days. iOS architecture you prefer? Whatever gets the job done, you should go for that one. I don't really have a preference for anything. Whatever gets the job done. And then when you need a framework, then you use the framework. I think people, what's the right word here? They overthink the architecture step because most of the time your app is so simple that you don't need Viper or MVVM. It's only when your code base has like so many different features and so many different screens that you have to start using these patterns just to make it maintainable. And that's when these architectures come to handy. Most of the time, I guess 90% of the time, if you're just working on a project yourself, you don't need much of anything. I don't know if it's polite to ask, but I was curious, to get more money from iOS contracting jobs or from tutorials? Kind regards, sir. Well, it really depends. As an iOS contractor or a full-time employee, you are, I guess let's start out with a full-time employee first. You have a set amount of money that you can make in a year, right? Your salary. And you can't go over that. But at the same time, the good thing is that you're never going to be underpaid. Like, they'll give you 100K as the offer, you get the 100K no matter what you do, unless you get fired or something. And even, I guess you get a raise at the end of the year or whenever these annual reviews come in. And as a contractor, you have the opportunity to land higher paying contracts. So that has more potential of making the money. But at the same time, it also has the drawback of not having anything to do during long stretches of time. So it's not atypical. So it's very common that contractors will not work for like a couple of weeks, like straight. It just isn't anything to do. So you can go months without a contract. So the amount of money that you got paid for a higher paying contract, that kind of gets eaten, or that money, the money that you've earned, you have to account for the entire year, not just that contract. So that's what that is. And there's a lot of effort that goes into finding these contracts too, that do take time, and the whole negotiating process for how much money you should get paid for a contract is just gets old really quickly. For something like, I guess, this new platform of YouTube and Udemy and all these online courses, the potential for earning money really depends on how much effort you put into it and how you decide on how to market yourself and how to make yourself known. So if you can become known or well known in your niche or in your industry, then you have a really, really high ceiling. Like, the ceiling is pretty much, you can't reach the ceiling. The more money you make, it really means that the bigger you are growing your audience. And as you grow your audience, like, there's other people that will come into this bubble of your platform, and then you just make more and more money. Now, being able to do that is difficult, right? So, for example, this channel is approaching, I don't know, 80,000 subscribers. And even though that sounds like a higher number, most of the subscribers are coming from other videos. They're not really here to learn iOS or programming. So you have to account for people that you're influencing, pretty much. And yeah. So tutorials is a interesting industry to be in. You also have to enjoy it. So, like, I didn't really enjoy working full-time most of the time at a job. And the biggest reason I didn't really like working was because I always wanted to build something for myself that I could say, yes, this whole thing is mine. I built it out, and it's kind of my legacy. You can't take it away from me. It's there, and I put in like my blood, sweat, and tears to make this thing out of nothing. So I've always wanted to do that. Every time I like joined a new company, I was always just delaying that moment where I decided to work for myself. So, I'm finally here. I'm doing something on my own, and being able to claim this piece of property on YouTube, this little real estate here, is something that I do take a little bit of pride in. It also gives me some opportunities, like teaching abroad in Shanghai last month. That was really interesting. I would not have gotten that opportunity if I didn't start this channel. And yeah, you just get known. I was actually invited to a different conference. So there's a conference, a tech conference in Russia, in Moscow, that invited me to give a talk there, and they were gonna, they're gonna cover everything in terms of the flight and meals and whatnot. And they just wanted me to give a talk, regarding this channel and what I've been able to do about teaching people online Swift programming. So that opportunity came up. I haven't accepted it, and I don't think I will, because it's another 14-hour flight to Russia, and I'm not super comfortable flying there, and I would really love to go check it out. But right now, I really want to focus on the things I want to do on this channel. So, there's a lot of different advantages of working on your own that you don't get when you're working for, I guess, the man or some kind of company. I guess that's my whole take on it. R.W. Braymiller, you made it. Yeah, it is a miracle. Okay, let me check how many people are on the stream today. 81 of you guys are still here checking it out. Awesome. When are you going to finish the pagination for the Instagram? I don't really know. It's kind of difficult. I really wanted to work on the push notification aspect of it first. So last week I was investigating the push notifications through Cloud Functions feature of Firebase, and I finally got it down. It took me a couple of hours to figure out what was going wrong with my push certificate, and after a while I got it, and I want to release a couple more videos on push notifications first, and then we'll see if we get to the pagination. So I did release those 2 videos on pagination, and I really wanted you guys to think about how to implement it first on your own before I go further. I feel like the way that the courses are designed, there's not a lot of breathing room for you to kind of digest the material and apply it to your own apps. So that's kind of nice to have. I guess you guys give it a try on your own first. Whoa, where did I go? Oh man, there's a lot of chat here today. I have to go. Well, that's good. As a high school student, what's the best thing I can do to get into a good CS college? I don't know. Study math, I guess. That's the only thing that you can study. If your high school has one of those advanced placement, we call that AP classes, then if it has AP programming, then that's something that you should obviously take. Companies ask questions about Swift or other languages for junior iOS developer. I don't know. I guess the last question is about Swift and Objective-C and table views, collection views, core data, asynchronous loading, JSON, stuff like that. Yeah. When I was hired as an iOS developer for Touch of Modern, they didn't really ask me anything technical about iOS or Objective-C, really. Yeah. I was given a really hard algorithm exercise, and I think I programmed it in C. So the guy at the company gave me this laptop, and then I think I used my own laptop, and I opened up the C, some kind of C compiler, and I just typed in a couple of for loops to do this thing called the sieve of Eratosthenes. If you guys want to look up what that algorithm is, you can see that it's an interesting one. So it had nothing to do with iOS, just a plain old algorithm problem. And when you go apply for these jobs, don't be surprised that they don't even care about iOS. They just want to know if you can program. And yeah, when I was going to college, I actually enjoyed my programming courses. I know a lot of people taking those CS beginner introduction courses, they didn't like programming at all. And you can really tell easily when you meet someone in that class that, oh yeah, you also enjoy programming as much as I did. Awesome. So yeah. Any chance you do a video or course on ARKit? Maybe. Well, so I lost my iPhone 7 Plus in China, and I don't really have a phone to develop on yet. I'm waiting for the iOS or the iPhone 10. I don't think I'm going to be able to get one, honestly. With all the news about people not buying the iPhone 8, that's just not good news for anyone getting an iPhone 10. Like there's actually stock available right now. You go to the Apple Store, you can get an iPhone 8. So that means everyone is waiting for the iPhone 10. And that's not going to be good for people like me that need an iPhone 10 to make these courses. But we always have the simulator that can do. What can it do? Can the simulator do anything? The simulator is not going to be able to do anything when it comes to the camera and the A9 chip that we need for ARKit. Is it A9? I think it's A9, yeah. So ARKit does not work on devices that are older than the iPhone 6s. So yeah. I was trying to use my iPad Air too. That thing was too old. Last one with animations was great. Good. How long does it take Cocoapods plugins to update their stuff? Cocoapods is just I don't know. So this is kind of a strange question, but there are individual people responsible for each pod that you integrate. So you have to wait for each individual person to update their library. This is why I do not recommend too many pods in your iOS app. Calendar, I guess I don't think there are any frameworks to use for calendar UI. Yep, GitHub can be used to track the previous changes of previous UI. Yeah. I've been following you for a while. I wonder, can I still buy your Instagram course even though we are at Swift 4? What do you recommend me to do? So those videos were shot in Swift 3, and for the most part, Swift 3 and Swift 4 is just so similar, like 99% similar. And I updated each of those videos like 38. So there's 40 lessons, and I had to go through all 40 zip files and update each project so that it was compilable in Xcode 9. I found out after I downloaded Xcode 9 GM that some of those projects in the later parts of that course, they don't compile exactly when you're trying to launch on the phone. So I have to do some more updating. But when you're watching the videos, like the code is so similar that you should be able to follow without any problems. If you guys are updating your apps to Swift 4, Xcode 9 GM, Xcode 9 release, then you're going to find that it's like super smooth. The transition from Swift 3 to Swift 4 is really simple. And I recommend that you do that as soon as you can. Yeah. Obviously, there are development cycles that do not allow you to update Swift due to dependencies and all that good stuff. Any quick remedies for programmers having allergic rhinitis? I don't know what this is exactly, but there's this thing called a neti pot, Netty, and it's this thing where you shoot water in one nostril and then you flush out the other nostril, and you do that for the other side, and it clears out a lot of that. I don't know exactly what it clears out, but it clears out your sinuses. So it's a good way to help if you have allergies. I might give it a try to fix what I'm having right now. But I didn't find out about the neti pot until like last year, and it's been extremely helpful. So, have you migrated any of your work to the new Swift 4? I haven't seemed to be getting an issue with left and right nav icons when it is images. Just wondering. Seems to be okay for me. Maybe I can show you guys a preview of what I've been working on. So I have it over here. Maybe I will show this. Let's see. Is this it? No. What is this? Simulator. That. Okay. So this is another course that I'm trying to release, and it's about core data. And you can see how there's an icon on the top right, right? If you scroll, no, that's not what I'm moving. If you scroll up on the app, it like shrinks the nav bar, and then that icon or that navigation item on the top right, I guess it's here. It's here. Yeah, it doesn't really shrink, so you gotta make sure the sizing is correct. I believe it's too large right now, so I have to shrink it down. But yeah. And yeah, everything seems to work pretty well. I do recommend giving the Xcode 10 simulator a go if you're up for testing out the new software. I recommend giving it a try. I've gone through your Kotlin videos. What kind of next steps do you recommend to continue learning? Well, I guess you can wait for my next Kotlin video, wherever that's going to come out. You can't find a whole lot of good Kotlin resources right now, so I guess I should hurry up and release the new videos. Open source projects, I don't really do that, so I don't have any good recommendations. If you wanted to build your own backend, what do you recommend? So backend languages are so different that it's hard to say here's the one that's right for you. I've done backend using Java, Ruby, Rails, PHP, and Google Golang. Which one's the best? I guess which one's the best for a beginner is the better question. I would say give Node.js a try, and then give Ruby on Rails a try, and then go to PHP, and then don't even bother with Java as a backend because I don't know, it just seems really difficult. Like you have to learn about these things called servlets, and it's just no fun. So, and then Google Go is not all that not all that beginner friendly. So the reason why I use Google Go for my website is because it's a really nice language to work in. Like everything I want in a server-side language, Google Go comes with. The only problem is that Go doesn't have all of these, I guess, prepackaged libraries that make it easy, but at the same time, it doesn't come with all these unnecessary libraries that you don't know what it does. So you also have to know what you're doing before you can really take advantage of Google Golang. And the resources on learning Go, it's not that easy to follow. So for example, if you're on like most of the time when you're trying to learn something, you're on these blog posts, and the language that is typed out in these blog posts are like really easy to read, and it's really friendly, and they talk to you in a way that you can understand what they're trying to explain. You don't find a lot of Google Go resources that have that same feeling to it. And hopefully maybe I'll put out a server-side tutorial one of these days. Yeah. How many of you guys will want a server-side tutorial? I would not recommend using Swift as a server-side language. It's not really meant for that. But if that's what you want to do, prove me wrong. I want to be a programmer, but I have no information at all. I want to be an app development programmer. What is the first coding language to learn, and the second and third to be able to do it? Well, I think you're getting ahead of yourself here. You have to figure out if you even like programming first. If you don't like programming, then don't do it. Because in the beginning, you spend probably 12 hours a day staring at a computer figuring out why your code doesn't work. Like, there's no avoiding that. Every programmer goes through that in their first couple of years of doing it. So if you can't do that, then it's not right for you. Not everyone can stare at the screen and just stay patient, keep trying out different permutations of the code to see what it's doing, and then finally knowing how to debug the issue. Like, you're pretty much changing one line of code here, and then you rerun the entire program to see, what does this do? And then you change another line, you're like, oh, this is what it does. And then slowly by doing this, you figure out, oh, okay, I understand what's going on now. And before you know it, 5 hours of your day has just gone by. So make sure you can endure that process before you get into software development. Any workaround for setting your nice Anchor extension without wrapping everything in available iOS 11? So the anchoring extension, I believe, works for iOS 9 and above. So pretty much everyone is on iOS 9. You don't have to wrap it at all. The anchoring extension, as you see in the Instagram course, we're not wrapping it with the if check of any OS, because I know that extension is going to be handled on 99% of phones. You look super tired. Just allergies, man. Allergies, when they get to you, your whole day is ruined. And I really wanted to, so I was moving all this stuff. I don't know if you can see what's behind me. So that's that screen right there. It kind of looks like a TV, right? And you can see the size of that screen relative to the iPad. And so the iPad, that's the iPad Air. So it's a 9-inch iPad, and that entire screen, that's a 40-inch 4K screen, and that's the screen I used to program in, or I used to program in that screen. I'm currently on my laptop right now and just trying out this new setup, getting the lighting to be, I guess, better, maybe. Yeah, so I was in my living room, and I'm moving everything in my bedroom just to get, I guess, a change of pace. And that screen right there is super nice. Yeah, get a 40-inch 4K screen if you want to have nice screen real estate for a Chrome browser, your Xcode browser, your other development tools that you need, and it makes your life a lot easier. If I were to program on my laptop, which is right here, I could do it, and I do it. When I go to Starbucks, right, I do that, and it's nice to have a cup of coffee, your laptop, and you're just typing away. But when you're at home, you can use the big screens and all that good stuff. Yeah, that's also my JBL speaker. Oh yeah, it's kind of nice to have a room that's, you can just fill it up with stuff. How's AWS versus Google Firebase? Make some AWS API tutorial with Swift. Oh, AWS. So I currently use AWS S3. And it's really cheap. That's why I use it. I don't know if you guys can guess my server costs for the website and everything. It's pretty much insignificant to me. And when you talk to people about server costs, it's always really expensive. I'm not doing a whole lot with my website, but I'm serving, how many people am I serving every month? It's definitely near 100,000 people a month on the website. So it's good. It's good that I don't have to worry about server costs. And the way that I've set up everything through AWS, like no matter how many users are on that website, it's still really, really cheap. So, and over the years, you get more knowledgeable with what technologies you can, or you should be using for your website and the server that you need. Now, I used to host my website on this really cheap WordPress thing, and I really hated it. So, just write your own server, learn some JavaScript, and, off you go. I got some basic iOS knowledge and Objective-C. I would recommend that basic. So on my website, there's that basic training course. If you have some basic iOS knowledge, you should be able to follow it. And if you want to confirm that, watch some of the videos that I have on this YouTube channel and try to go through it. And if you can, check out that course if you want to. And then check out the Instagram course, because that is a really good one. Pat myself on the back. I just finished Instagram course and it was a blast. You're giving out absolute gems. So thank you, Ben Lee. Yeah. Let me save this so I can put it on the website as a review. Yeah. So many people have emailed me about getting internships, jobs, WWDC scholarships, just using the material on this channel. I never really thought that I was going to have that kind of effect for people. But when I first started this channel, the thing I wanted to really change was the perception of programmatic coding. And I don't know if you guys were here for the early days of this channel. Most people hated the approach of just using code to build out the UI. The reason is because everyone's coming from these Udemy, Udacity, Lynda, all of these platforms that teach you how to use the storyboard, and that's not really programming. I just gonna put it bluntly, it's not exactly the right way to learn iOS programming. Like, you're not learning the programming part of programming. So I wanted to teach people how to do it, and after a while people got really used to the style, and then more and more viewers, subscribers really got hooked on the idea of using code to do everything. And doing things to the storyboard is fine too, but eventually you have to know how to do both. Yeah. So yeah, I'm glad I can change the perception of doing it that way, and giving people advice, and just what I want to say here. So when I was in the beginning days of my career as a developer, it would have been really nice if there was someone that I can watch just program, really just program something, and that would have helped me out a lot. So I'm glad I can be I guess, that person to the next generation. Yeah, it's kind of a funny story. I have a friend, or one of the Shanghai TAs, the assistants that I had. He goes to college at UPenn, and he has a friend, or he was showing his resume to his other computer science. What do you call someone that's your student? His fellow UPenn classmate. That's what they're called. He showed that classmate his resume, and he's like, "Oh, you know the Let's Build That App guy?" He's like, yeah. He's like, "I worked with him during the Shanghai Tech, the summer thing." He's like, "Oh, that's awesome. You know that guy?" I'm like, "Yeah." So it's good to make that small little impact on the world. No matter how small it is, it's an impact nonetheless. Do you have any tips on your final year project? That's a hard question to answer. Build whatever you think is going to be useful. It should be hard. It should be something that you don't know how to do. And you should test it with people that you can trust. Yeah. So Sean says, "Thanks, Brian, for all of the hard work you put out there." Well, you're welcome. Yeah, so recording videos is obviously not my professional, or it's not my profession. So recording videos sometimes is not something that I enjoy doing. Just put it that way. So being able to just like power through and make videos, I never really thought I could do that, but here I am. Some of those videos that I've been putting out using After Effects and narrating some of those videos, that's been really fun. I actually like doing that more than something like this where I'm in front of the camera. I guess because I never really enjoyed being in like the center of attention. That was never my thing. So doing the effects, doing the audio, timing everything together, making all of that visually appealing is something that I really love doing. Getting in front of the camera, not so much. But, it's nice to see someone's face when they're coding and you see their reaction. Makes it more personable. Or maybe someday I'll just get off the camera and just do things without my face on the screen. I know some of you guys have given me that suggestion before. How do you use two cameras to make your videos? More specifically, how do you record your screen and yourself at the same time? There's so many tools out there to make this happen, right? So you can use Premiere. You can layer your camera's footage onto your screen footage. Or you can use something like this software right here that makes all this possible. And there's other ways of doing it. But I'm not sure if people are interested in hearing about how, I guess, the behind the scenes of making videos on YouTube. I like to hear about it, but yeah. So talking about behind the scenes, this is what you should see if like all this camera gear, lighting, what everything looks like if it's not lit properly and the angles. I'm not a professional videographer, so I don't really care so much about all this, but after a while you're like, oh, how can I improve my lighting, setup, backdrop, make it more visually interesting? We have people purchasing things on the website, so that's good. Yeah. So one thing that's good about being able to program apps on your phone, using my Android phone, now that I've used this Android phone for quite some time now, this is a cheap $220 Android Moto 5G. And, honestly, I actually like using this phone more than my iPhone 7 Plus. And I know that's going to start a lot of wars on this channel because everyone's probably, I'm going to assume 99% of you guys are using an iPhone. And the first thing about this cheap Android phone that I like is, to me, the colors seem nicer. Like when I look at the background for this, the colors are better. The icons have their own unique feel to it. Like some of the icons are different shape, right? But in iOS, all the icons are like this square ellipse, which is okay, but they're not all unique like this. Like they all have their unique feel. So this is going to become a Android review channel pretty soon. Here's the other thing that's amazing. So I do a lot of podcast listening, and I also listen to music on this phone. And so I have two different ways of playing my music, or my music's up here. I just hit the play, and then I just play whatever the last track I was on. If I wanted to do that through the iPhone, I would have to go through the home screen wherever my music app is. Maybe it's down here. I'll hit the music button, and then I'll have to find where my last track was, which, if I recall correctly, it was very difficult to do. So this is just Google Music right here. And if I wanted to play my podcast that I'm listening to, I can just play it through the UI, the desktop UI, and just hit the play button and it plays. And that actually is the last podcast that I was listening to. So all that is available through the home screen. And then on top of that, I know this is getting into too much Android territory, but let's say I'm playing sturdy. Okay, so that was just the audio for both. And so I guess I don't want to show you guys some of this stuff. So now I can play the music and I can play the podcast through the notification center. So all that stuff is available. In the iPhone, you can't have two different audio sources on the notification tab. And I can play either the podcast or the music or something else. Maybe Spotify, that would show up on the top notification tab too. So I guess long story short, this phone is pretty awesome. I'm a little sad that I have to buy an iPhone 10 and stop using this phone. But yeah. I always hear get some open source projects going for your resume to look good for jobs, but don't know where to find open source projects yet. I think if you just find something that you use yourself personally, and then you reach out to that open source project, the owner of that repository, you can start working on small little bug fixes. And trust me, there's always something to fix. Some of the tedious little problems that people don't like fixing, you can always do that. I would really love to teach as well. Yeah. Teaching is good. If I were to rank teaching, I would not, in terms of the things I love, teaching isn't really up there. I like talking about code more than I like teaching. I guess I'll put it that way. And through talking about code, most of the time I'm doing some teaching, learning as well. And I like doing pair programming. I guess that's kind of what I mean. I like seeing people learn, but I don't like doing the actual lecturing. I like I enjoy the process of learning together. I don't like the process of me just like, here's how this thing works. Here's what you should do. Here's what these libraries do, and here are the methods. Like, I don't like teaching that way. It's just really boring. When I was going through college, all the professors taught that way, and I just hated all my classes. Yeah, I'll go into my rant about colleges and schools maybe in another video again. St. Petersburg, Russia. Awesome. Maybe I will go to Moscow and give my tech talk. Enterprise code base. It can be overwhelming at first, wondering how you approach this. Any code base that you start, like you start out a job, and you're trying to get into that code base and understand some of the material, some of the code, some of the lines. It's always going to be intimidating, overwhelming. You just have to power through. That's the only advice I have for that. Hello from Italy, yeah. Do you write a lot of server-side code as a mobile developer in your previous jobs? Yeah, I actually did. I think I did Rails, Java. Yeah, that was a lot of server-side coding. iOS developers tend to have this misconception that you don't have to work on the back end because you're just an iOS developer, right? But most of the time, you have to modify the backend code. You have to look at it to see what the backend is returning to your iOS app. And yeah, that's something that you do have to do. Ever have to refactor someone else's awful code? Yes, way too many times to count. There's always someone that codes spaghetti code, really hard to maintain, and bad variable names, function names, class names, singletons that don't make any sense, just things that you should not be doing as a programmer. What is your indication for news programmers? I'm not exactly sure what a news programmers is. Good libraries for image caching for iOS. Well, I would suggest just Google image caching Swift and you'll find like 5 of them. And they're all really good. So read up on the pros and cons before you decide on using one. Maybe just use the cache that I wrote. So in the LPTA components package, there's a small image library for caching. Considering purchasing the Instagram course, but I also see Twitter being free. Question, is it because Instagram contains much more info? Yeah. The Instagram course, we build out like 5 or 6 different screens, and we just go through so much. All of the lessons are also a lot longer. So think about these courses when I charge money for it. There's a couple of things about it. It lets me know that you're in it because you want to learn about iOS and you're willing to spend like a lot of time to learn. So for each one of those lessons, I go into a lot of good detail, and they're probably like 20 to 25 minutes long per lesson. The YouTube stuff is usually like 15 minutes because due to retention and YouTube, YouTube's the whole thing. You have to make your videos short, and you can't talk the same way. You can't speak the same complex language as you would in a different type of like a paid premium course. So the Twitter stuff, while it's still really good, if you decide to just take the Twitter course, go ahead. You'll learn so much more in the Instagram one. So my teacher taught retain cycles were pertain to laundry. I haven't seen that analogy yet, but that sounds like a good one. The retain cycle analogy that I learned with was the balloon one. So you can imagine people and balloons. So if I have one balloon And if I let go of the balloon gets let go, and nothing else is retaining the balloon. So that means we do not have a memory leak, right? Like the balloon going away is what we want to have happen when we let go of the balloon. However, if two people are holding the balloon, like two people here, two people, they're holding that balloon, one person lets go, another person is still holding onto that balloon. So that means the balloon is not let go. And if the second person let go of the balloon, then the balloon flies away. The system is still good. The OS is able to reclaim that memory and then use it again later. Now the problem is, let's say 3 people are holding that balloon and 2 of them let go of the balloon, and then for whatever reason the third person just disappears. Like, you delete the third person and you have no way of accessing this third person holding that balloon again. So what that means is you have this retain cycle between the third person and the balloon, and both of these things will never get deallocated in your memory properly. So you lose the memory of these 2 objects forever. So that's the memory leak. It's kind of hard to explain that in code, but that's the idea. E-commerce app, can I use Firebase to update the content, like adding a shirt? Yeah. I mean, have you looked at the chat Firebase course, the Instagram course? It's pretty easy if you follow those couple of lessons. Will you do a series on different testing available, say for the Instagram app, if it's going to be launched for real? Like, what steps will be done for all the testing necessary? Testing is just this whole different thing. How did you learn React Redux? So testing is a challenge because you don't exactly want to test out every line of code. You only want to test out things that are worth testing. So that's like a judgment call. For example, in the Instagram course, we have these functions that return users based on the Firebase call. So you should definitely test out that function and make sure it returns you a user if the Firebase call succeeds. Now, if you don't have that test, and if someone makes a change to that Firebase user call, they might break it in some way that you don't expect. So that's why that function is worth testing. You might think like, oh, this table view rendering out 5 cells is worth testing. For the most part, you don't want to test the UI kit libraries. iOS does that testing for you, or Apple does that UI kit testing. So you shouldn't worry about things like that. But code that you write yourself that is sort of something that you're responsible for, you should test for that. Yeah. React Redux, well, I think I followed that Facebook tutorial, and that was pretty much all I needed. Find your tutorials really cool. Yep. For Slovakia. Cool. Planning to do some app based on TDD. Maybe. TDD is not. I don't know what I want to say. TDD is not fun to watch. I would have a hard time making TDD videos interesting. Split views programmatically. I think it's pretty easy. You have, I think the split view has the view controllers or main. It has the left controller either as one single property, or it has the view controllers, and it uses the first controller as the left one, and then the second controller as the thing on the right. I think that's how it works. Shouldn't be too difficult. The last time I did it, I thought it was pretty straightforward. So where am I? Following you for a while now. I'm using your LPA components in an app. Awesome. Really like it. Do you have plans to expand those components with more features? Do you accept any pull requests? LPA components. I'm not sure if I'm going to use this soon or anytime soon for another series. I mean, I really like it. I actually use it in my own projects for some contracting work. Yeah. I think yeah, if you want to send any pull requests on that GitHub repo, let me know. I'll look at it. First time here. Hello from London. Well, hello, mate. No, that's Australia. Hello. Yeah, that's how they say it. Hello, sir. What kind of accent is that? That sounds weird. When making apps for clients, is there a category you focus on? And also, are you good in AV Foundation? AV Foundation is probably the harder APIs, the frameworks to work with. That's what makes them really interesting. The amount of different things that you can do with AV Kit, it's pretty amazing how much you can do. Like playing audio, capturing video, compressing the video in different qualities. Yeah, so it's really fun. How many programming languages do you know? Too much to count, and knowing more languages does not really mean anything. Apple Swift documentation is really hard to read, especially as a junior developer. Will you ever make a video giving us tips on some of the topics? Man, there's a lot of comments here today. Oh, we have $2 from the Alexander Garlock. Thank you for that. Thanks for the Firebase tutorial. You are awesome. Yeah, no problem. Okay. How much time do I have left? Teapot for anyone? Oh, it's always good to stay hydrated, even though we're just sitting here chilling. Oh, my tea's gotten cold. Have you guys had a cold tea? That's not good. So Apple Docs. What do I want to say about Apple Docs? Apple Docs, they're not really that useful, honestly. Maybe I'll take that back. Apple Docs is only useful when you want to find out the official documentation for what something is meant to do, exactly what this thing is supposed to do, along with some other things that are related to like that class or that property or whatever you're looking at. Like that's what it's meant to do. If you are trying to figure out like how to build a certain app a certain way, then the docs will not help you at all. Yeah. So I don't rely on the Apple Docs to teach me, like, let's say if I wanted to build the new App Store app, like how the cards slide in and the animation works. The Apple Docs is pretty much not useful at all for me. So, yeah, if you're a junior developer, I guess eventually you'll have to look at the docs. I just command click into a property and then I read what the description says, and for the most part I get a pretty good understanding of it. How much impact does university you attend have on your career? It has a big impact. If you're, yeah, internships are important. I never had an internship when I was going to college, which always made me felt a little inadequate when I was getting into the software world for the first couple of years. But yeah, that question is a hard one. What phone do you use on a day-to-day basis? So Moto 5G. Again, ever since my phone was stolen in Shanghai, I moved on to a cheaper phone. Having your $700 phone stolen is not a fun thing to deal with, especially when you're in another country and the only thing you can rely on is your phone. Losing it is it's kind of a heartache. Yeah, try not to get focused or frustrated on it and focus on what you need. Yep. How do you learn different type of algorithms effectively and quickly? So algorithms is something that you learn in school. If I didn't have those classes in a university that taught me algorithms, I would not be good at algorithms, I don't think. So if anything, university is good for teaching you how to solve some of these things, as well as exposing you to things like what's a tree, what are linked lists, what are nodes, how an array works, how much memory an array holds, and how you expand an array when you need more space, how dictionaries, hash maps work. That's what you got to know if you're a software developer. All of this stuff does come into play when you're working as a full-time developer. Do you use LBTA framework on the Instagram course? No, I do not. And maybe that's a good thing, maybe it's not. I think the thing about the Instagram course is all I really needed, or all I ever really need when I start a new project, are a couple of different things. Image caching, which I don't like explaining anymore. I think I've done an image caching tutorial like 4 times now. So we all have to load images through some kind of URL string, and you have to cache it and just use a pod. It makes your life easier. The other thing I need for a new project is some way to anchor things onto the screen without typing out like 5 different lines. So I make a simple anchoring extension, which makes my life easier. It makes it easier to watch the videos. And the other thing that I like to have, but it's not exactly necessary, is an easier way to use a collection view, so I don't have to register cells and dequeue cells. But that is hard to do. I mean, it's hard to skip over using a collection view directly, because that's what you'll be using in most of your apps. I don't want to skip on that. Can you pick up on algorithms while you program? Probably not. Apple Docs makes less or no sense to me when reading it, unlike your videos, which are sometimes easier to digest. Yeah. Firebase offline cache is fully developed. I'm not sure. It's supposed to be. How long do you code a day? I can code like 10 to 12 hours a day if I have enough things to code. I can do that. Like coding is, to me, like watching TV. I'd rather code than actually watch TV, to be honest. Yeah. I don't know if that sounds strange, but watching TV to me feels like a waste of time. Coding makes me feel productive, so that's why I like to code. How long have you been coding? I don't know, 15 years, I guess. So bad you lost your phone in China. No problem, it's just a phone. Much worse things could have happened. And I think there's a saying, I guess money, materialistic items, all this stuff is not part of your temple, your body. So as long as your body's not hurt, then everything's good. So no regrets there. Learned different things about how to protect yourself when you're in China and what not to do with your expensive gadgets. Can we do a Swift iOS building our virtual environment, Hackintosh? If you want to, it's all up to you. Database advanced course. I don't think there are any good ones out there. It's really hard to put together a good database course. Swift for backend. I would not recommend Swift for backend, but definitely feel free to prove me wrong. And yeah, so Swift for backend. There aren't a lot of things that I say no to. Like, I'm always open to trying out the new language, new technology, and making sure it works. I gave Swift a try for backend. Knowing what I know about backend development, I can't recommend Swift at all. But maybe that's just me. I feel like if you don't know backend programming, then if you try to use the Swift framework for it, maybe you'll have more success doing it. I think the problem was I had to compile my Swift project every time I made a change to the request handlers. Yeah. Go is awesome and super simple as long as you know programming in general. Not that easy for beginners, but is awesome for scalable projects. Yes, I agree with this 100%. It's super awesome and it's super simple. Doesn't come with anything unnecessary that you don't need, but at the same time, it is not it's not that easy to get into. But once you get the feel for it, your projects like you look at the benchmarks for Google Golang, it's just amazing how many requests you can handle. Multi-threadedness comes for free natively. Like, it's just so fast, right? Nope, native script. Yeah, so Shine Han Shine. Yeah, I figured out how to do the push notification like a while back, and I am going to make some videos about that. Yeah. What do you recommend working for working with databases? Realm, Firebase, or Core Data? So Realm and Firebase are both of these cloud databases. Core Data is not a cloud database. It's just some way of storing stuff locally. Firebase and Realm, either one. I have more experience with Firebase, so I would use Firebase if it was me. If it were me, Firebase. Scroll a few items in a main UI view. Well, use a table view. That's what it's meant for, or a collection view, whatever you want. Cancel your Instagram course on your playlist. It should be there, or you removed it. So the Instagram course is on the website. You can find it at letsbuildthatapp.com. It's in the description below. It's not a free course, so that's why you don't see it on the playlists. Remember, the things in this world, the good things in this world, you have to actually pay for. And again, you do get what you pay for. If you're watching free things on the internet. Free things, the quality of free things is not always that great, except for this channel, right? While I was learning Udemy to create an app, they taught me how to use storyboards, nothing else. I didn't even know you could style the app without storyboards until I saw your channel. Yeah. You know, the Udemy courses are mostly just to get people into iOS, get their feet wet, and I think that's it. Yeah, like there's nothing wrong with those Udemy courses. They do a good job for beginners, and most beginners find out that I actually don't like iOS development, and so it's a cheap way to figure out for $10 that you don't like doing iOS programming. So okay, let's see, how long has this stream gone on for? My computer is going a little crazy with the fan here. Oh my god, 1 hour and 46 minutes. All right, so I am going to get out of here. Yeah. Yeah, so David, basic training course, awesome. Thank you for the purchase. Any plans on doing a series incorporating PayPal? Eventually, when I get other projects done that I have in the pipeline, then yeah. Upgrade, yeah, buy the new MacBook Pro. You should be good. I see at Sean Allen, random stuff. Sean, where are you, Sean? Yeah, I see Sean down below. Just hopped on. What are we testing out, Rand? Sorry for the repeated question. Probably asked this, but yeah. I was testing out the chat earlier. Am I still even streaming? Looks like I'm streaming. Stream is continuing. Okay, I think I should be fine. Yeah, just testing out my room as well. Adaptive layouts. I think that's just auto layout. Yeah. I guess it's more complicated than that, but if you use auto layout correctly, you'll get, I guess, 99% of what you need done. And the way that we go through auto layout on this channel, it's the same thing. Okay, so 37 people left. Good to have everyone here. I'm gonna go have dinner maybe now, and I'll see you guys next week maybe. All right, thanks for joining, guys, and I will see you again next time.